The ABN Champ Car World Series returns again to Northeast competition with one of the biggest ovals not only on the schedule but all throughout the United States. And this time we got a bit of a Pennsylvania twist. It's the Tricky Triangle. Welcome back to the Pocono Raceway for 100 laps of exciting racing in just a few moments' time. Qualifying is directly upcoming and more than 15 drivers have registered so far, looking to show what they've got on the table at one of the highest speed events in the 2024 calendar. I'll be producing behind the scenes tonight. I'm David Kreutz, joining you with your two hosts and commentators, Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills. It's due to be a very exciting event, of course, at the Pocono Raceway. As we've seen previously, no matter the type of car, this circuit brings the best and the most excitement out of the drivers and fans alike, and we're glad that you've tuned in here just as we start our 10-minute qualifying session. We've been seeing so far trends throughout the season. Versatile drivers have been the story of the campaign. Someone who can win at almost every circuit is, of course, the most desirable type of driver, and that's been something presented in our best championship contenders in both driver and team alike. Now, last week, of course, we saw ourselves a brand new winner in a race-leading battle that was cut short. Unfortunately, Alex Miller was the man who disconnected and couldn't find himself back on the circuit after being in the thick of the battle in Chicago. Gave way to Ruby Nekamata's very first career win. Now, back in the stomping ground for many of our American drivers, multiple calling this track their very home circuit, and some of which very close located otherwise are familiar with this track, unlike what we saw in Chicago. Same country, different environment, and back to the ovals again. But this is an oval some drivers might not have a lot of experience with these very fast IR18s. With qualifying on the way, extensive testing, we know already, has been taking place all throughout the week leading up to this event, and luckily both our hosts here have some experience looking behind the scenes and figuring out what's going on for the drivers and their strategy games. So without further ado, I'd like to bring forth the first question of the day. What are we going to see from these drivers optimizing their race from inside the cockpit? They've got a lot of options, now they need to use them wisely in order to succeed.
I think the main thing I'd expect to see tonight is total team control taking the forefront once again. We've seen it so far this season, especially in that first crown jewel of the season, in which MPM took home the 1-2. I think, once again, if you can find friends, and if you are flying solo, like Frankie Winners today, both teammates unfortunately absent from this race, you don't have to find friends wherever you can. Sort of prove yourself to be trustworthy in maybe the swap draft or just in the pack, and use that to your advantage coming through the race, because there's going to be strength in numbers here. You're going to definitely benefit from having someone who's willing to work with you, give you the open lane in the corners, give you the fuel save if you need it, and I think that the driver's going to be successful today, as we want to not just set a good qualifying lap and start at the front, but the ones who can find that collaboration to stay at the front.
Yeah, and of course, a unique challenge in the Pocono Raceway is the fact we've got a very, very quick racetrack, talking 330 plus kilometers an hour at the top end, with three very different corners, of course, based on Trenton, Indy, and the Milwaukee Miles. So, yeah, three completely different styles of turn, which is what makes this track so exciting, because you have to drive the car in such a different way in all three corners. And the drivers are going to have tools to use tonight. It's always the case: anti-roll bars, weight jacker. But the biggest thing that's going to help them out on track during the race is who can hunt that clean air the best. Turn 3 is a big, wide, flat corner, and if you can't get any air on your nose through there, you're going to be 30, 40 kilometers an hour slower than anyone else in front of you, and it's going to be so hard to not only build a run for a move, but to even stick with the pack. So that should be the driver's focus tonight, is making sure that you take your time, you're patient with where you're placed in the car, and you're ready to move it onto whatever line is going to give you the best run through the corner.
John Hayden, currently top of the board, a rookie, been taken under the wing of Carmen Sienna, the most experienced driver in the paddock with the most race starts of the series, as well as overlooking the whole thing from the very start. Clearly doing well, but look who has jumped up again, actually very briefly, Alex Miller looking for vengeance from the heartbreak last week, jumped up onto the pole, but John Hayden immediately on his final lap goes, no, this one's mine. And now Edson Santos, in fact, is going to lay claim to it as well. A very experienced driver we know across the service in this car, but hasn't really been able to find that consistency to back that up as of yet. Alex Miller pull it into pit lane and will reset. The same will be true of Santos. You're starting to see drivers and then sit and then a pit lane get those engine temperatures up into the range. And one thing that I did forget, but it's going to be very interesting, is watch Nicholas Pressey run a lap here. I believe starting a lap. It's build night in America. We've got, of course, a very cute new car, very cute new track, and McLaren failing to hold up on contracts again. But there's also some changes to the service as a whole. Not much to this car. There's one big change to push past that we will talk about when we head over to Japan for the third road course of the season in a few weeks' time. The car's maybe a little bit more fragile, but we have a 10-minute lone qualifying session. And one of the new updates that we've seen in iRacing today is that now in these lone qualifying sessions, not only can we flip between the cars and see what everyone's up to, but so can the drivers in the garage. When they're on the track, they've got clean air, the whole place themselves as usual. But if you are out of the car, you can now snoop and see. Maybe you watch maybe Nick Wheeler's Happy Bride who haven't set laps yet are just watching to see what are people planning. Maybe they're seeing this engine warming or a particular warm up on the outlap and going, maybe I'm going to try that. Maybe that is what I need to launch myself forward in the field.
Yeah, of course, not everyone has the opportunity to watch the broadcast, and probably hasn't for the majority of the 2 seasons that we've been doing this now. So I haven't really seen that other drivers have been sat there at the end of pit lane getting their engines warm before going out on track, and then wondering, oh goodness, where's all that lap time come from? So with that change to qualifying, it's going to give everybody that equal opportunity to be able to see exactly what the fast guys are doing at the front, and it'll let them in onto that engine warming strategy. And well, not only that, you'll be able to see the exact lines that other people are taking through the corners. Maybe not so much an advantage on ovals, because these things are pretty standardized in terms of how you run a lap. But when it gets to road courses, of course, in Champ Car, you can just sit and watch. It's an open qualifying session. But when these drivers go out into the official sessions, maybe even at tracks that we're going to, they'll be able to take a minute and sit and watch the exact lines that the really fast guys are running, either when they're picking up throttle, whether they're turning in, braking points, and all that sort of thing that are really important to building lap time there. Speaking of building lap time, though, Nick Wheeler, we're seeing just start to build that speed for what is likely to be one of the last qualifying runs of the session. Edson Santos currently topping the timing screen, with John Hagen only a couple of hundredths behind. But what is the 4 car going to be able to do as we jump onto that beautiful left shoulder cam? Nice wide entry through turn 1, not using all the track on the inside, choosing to carry the momentum around the outside of that corner, and now down this very long back stretch, which is where we're going to see so many moves built up tonight. Turn 2, perhaps not an amazing overtaking opportunity, but an opportunity to build some speed, easy to gain and lose time through there, as Wheeler makes his way down the short, almost the short chute at the back, taking that wide line through 3 again, which I think this lap may have been another bit of a build-up. Wheeler not really getting out of 5th gear, which is something we don't expect. You don't build the speed to use 6th gear, but Wheeler's first flying lap is only good enough for 15th, so definitely a build lap. So here it comes then, using more of that inside line this time around, hopefully carrying a little bit more mid-corner speed and building some more momentum on corner exit down this lovely long back stretch, once again past all the trees and bushes on the outside of the circuit. Tips it nicely through tunnel turn. Car not stepping out of line, nice and neat, but into the very tricky, very flat turn 3. Much neater to the inside there, not using any of that curbing on the inside. Of course, you can use that. Not so much up to the wall on entry. Quite a conservative run from Nick Wheeler, but conservatism is going to be one of the things that's going to keep drivers in the fight here tonight. You don't want to push too hard, because that's when you're going to end up in that outside wall at 3.
And watching very much seemed to help there. Edson Santos couldn't quite improve on his final attempt. Did Alex Miller have a response? Not quite. Will still start from the second row of the grid. It looks like that might be our session right close. Zach McBride, I believe, the only driver still with laps left in hand, but not with much time left in hand. Should be to line to finish this lap, but just away from the wall, pushing it back to the limit. But I think the tyres given up, lost 2/10 compared to the previous lap on that one. And that will round out our qualifying field. A bit of a frantic session as we were sort of building it very quickly, but now got 10 minutes to settle back down. Discuss everything else that is going to be coming up in the race day. 100 laps. This is our second crown jewel of the season. We have another one at Indianapolis and then at Fontana to round out, to round out the 4 crown jewels of our 16-round campaign. And this would also mark the halfway point of the season once the Shadow Flag falls. So if you want to be in a position to contend for a championship, you've really got to start making that push tonight if you're not already there. And I think that's the plan for a lot of these drivers as they pull out on track for a little bit more draft running. Now that they know where they're starting, they'll know sort of where they need to line up and get used to the dirty air, or in the case of Edson Santos, maybe practice fending them off in the cleaner.
Yeah, Nicholas Pressey finishing P3 last time out in Chicago, very much making a statement that it is time for NPEM to start moving back to the front of the championship. Of course, leading that teams and drivers championship after round 1. So, as you said, Liv, the time for the teams to make that step forward and really start fighting the fight is going to be now, because you're setting yourself up for the rest of the season. And it's races like tonight, key moments, that decide how easy or how hard that championship fight is going to be. Of course, NPEM have Mariah United VRT for company at the moment. Very tight on points between those two. But of course, they're going to score with 2 or 3 cars tonight, whereas Mariah United VRT only have that 1 car in the race. So tonight's going to be as much about survival as it is making sure that you beat the other drivers around you on track. Of course, Presti making a good start to that particular fight, out-qualifying all 3 Taylor Mills Racing drivers, the team that are currently at the top of the standings by almost 200 points. So if Presti can keep his car on track, clean at the front of the field, and Bryce Saucier can make his way up there as well, this is going to be when NPEM are going to start making that move. We know they're good at the Triple Crown events, as we see Nicholas Presti slam into the attenuator at way over 200 miles an hour. It's almost like you knew we were talking about him. But we know this team run well on these sorts of tracks. We know they're good at the draft stopping. We know they're good on tracks where you have to manage all of the dirty air. So, if anything, I'm expecting a performance out of those folks tonight.
And I guess while we're talking about who we expect performances out of, maybe we'll let David start on this one of predictions for who might be the one to take home our second crown jewel of the season.
This one's a tricky one. That's the one thing I have my mind on: speed. And last time we went to a really fast circuit, it was NPEM that was the dominant group and went out there and, of course, collected the checkered flag. 1-2 finish for them, and, of course, that's turned out to be the best run of their season. So I find myself going back to maybe Michigan as a strong example. I would have said Edson Santos if this was maybe 2 or 3 starts prior in his season, but the inconsistencies got me a little more worried about going back to him than anything else. So tonight, one driver that we also spoke about before this race, one who's due for a victory on the most successful team this season, I think it's the number 28 of Mo Perry. Right now, of course, Mo's only gotten better and better with multiple 4th place finishes in the past few weeks. Right now, a little bit of trouble even seeing him, but putting those internet issues at bay and, of course, putting the hammer down in the main event, I feel Mo Perry's got a real chance at capitalizing on a track like this at the Pocono Raceway. High speed, everyone's got a chance, but it's going to be hard if Mo is still almost invisible, so we try to keep up with him on the cameras there. Hopefully that gets sorted out in the coming minutes.
Yeah, almost a bit of a naive choice with the internet issues that Mo Perry is facing tonight. Seems to have gotten a lot worse in the last couple of weeks, but hopefully they can get that sorted out and get themselves straightened out for the rest of the race, especially with that no bias gorgeous livery on that car. I'm sure Olivia will tell you that story, so it doesn't come out of my mouth. But so I have a tendency of picking my own drivers for the picks, and it has a tendency of working out. But one day I feel like it's gonna bite me, and the commentator's curse will actually strike. But we know that the TMR drivers, particularly Lilac and Alex, like to have statement races. Alex's first win at Atlanta, Lilac coming back from crashing out at Atlanta and completely dominating in what I think was I want to say Gateway, where it was just a completely dominant performance end to end. So TMR drivers, when they have a knockback, like to make statements and get out there on track and completely dominate. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case tonight. There's going to be some stiff competition from NPEM. But I am going to pick the number 49 of Alex Miller in that gorgeous. He told me the color. I painted this car. I made this color, but I've forgotten what it's called. But it's a Pennsylvania Railroad livery, with that gorgeous brownie red and gold striping. So yeah, 49 to victory lane today. Alex Miller has a championship lead to take back, and he's going to fight everything to get that back.
It is the PRR Tuscan Red.
That's the one, Tuscan Red. Neat little detail, by the way. That top little section is the same color as the roof of one of the railway carriages that you sent me a photo of.
Yeah, it's a very nice nod. Alex, of course, being a home race and also being a bit of a train nerd, as I think a few of us probably are. it's a fun little homage on that car. But I am going to pivot away from TMR because I mean we've been saying it. Who won the last crown jewel? Who opened up the season with a dominant 1-2 finish? It was NPEM, and more importantly, we've not seen this track on an ABN calendar in 2 years. But do you know who won the race when we came here in season 2?
Was it Nicholas Pressing?
It was not.
Oh, never mind then.
Was new signing for NPEM, Dud South, and I have been told that Dud does not believe in the commentator's curse, so to not get under the fire of Pressy or Bryce, I'm going to say Dud is going to be the one to take home the flag in. Again, beautiful livery. iRacing updating the spec map system for metallic paints today as well. I think it makes that blue really pop. There's a few other cars that I think just look absolutely gorgeous in the Pennsylvania sun with this new update. But I'm going to put my money on the 88 of Dud South, but I think it's going to be team control. I've been able to see the practice that TMR have been putting in, but I am sure that NPEM have been working just as hard to try and make this happen, and I think that experience, especially from bringing in Dud, the previous winner here, I think that's going to prevail, and one of those cars for sure is going to have a really strong race today.
2.5 minutes left then before we get into today's race event. There's going to be big bump on the inside of the corner there that Lewis is just either completely forgot about or chose to drive into. So don't be going down there to get out of Rex. Or potentially
we did discover that one in testing last night. It's pretty brutal.
I forgot about it, to be honest. So did not expect that massive bump. But one person that we've spoken about but haven't really given much, if any, credit to is Edson Santos. We know how fast he can be, and we know that he can win races, but he's had such a disappointing season so far, and I think he'd probably say that himself as well. Just the results haven't really been there, but the pace has. So question marks up in the air tonight. Is Edson Santos going to upset the teams at the front of the field and maybe take home the checkered flag tonight? I know neither of us have, none of us have picked him for our picks because of that general inconsistency. But could this be the night when he actually does that? It's going to be tricky with having no friends out there on track, no teammates out there on track, but I don't know, maybe a bit of a dark horse in this race?
It's always possible. But I think the reason I've not gone with Edson is because I think he's always capable of bringing that result out. And obviously late last season, did bring out a fantastic result at both Homestead and Kansas, 2 podiums in sort of the latter half of that season, but has always had very strong qualifying performances, and those haven't always translated into a race result. So there's always a potential, but I'm not swayed by the pole position here. I'm going to be swayed by watching those first 30, 40 laps and seeing how this race is being approached and whether it can translate to that number 20 car. I know he has the race winning potential, just have to make it cleanly through. Again, 400 kilometers, 250 miles, a full 100 laps of this track. You cannot get away with 1 lap pace. You cannot get away with inconsistency. You've got to be on it from flag to flag, and whoever can do that is going to be the one who takes home the checker.
I do think it's very interesting that none of the big 2 teams are on the front row tonight. I think that's going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Nicholas Pressey, of course, is going to be separated from the rest of his teammates by a couple of rows. So I think we know how important that teamwork's going to be tonight. So those who can find their friends the fastest are going to be the ones likely to succeed nice and early.
And as the cars line up on the staggered pit road, I'm always surprised to see when we did it outside of Charlotte. It's time to have a look at how our field will line up for the Pocono 400, our second Crown Jewel race of the season. As mentioned, it will be the 20th Edson Santos taking, I believe, the 3rd pole position of the season for that crew. John Hayden will line up alongside rookie, been taking undercar in Tenner's wing and really thriving in these machines now. Nicholas Pressey and Alex Miller line up on the 2nd row, with Mo Perry and Dud South supporting behind. That again, that's that team battle really showing itself in those 2nd and 3rd rows. A lot of potential for both those teams tonight. Nick Wheeler will line up P7, with Bryce Sosa outside in P number 8. And then it's Zach McBride and Eli Sasek rounding out the top 10, just over a 10th of a second from pole. A very tight qualifying field here today. Lilac Zero will have to work from the back to the front, but we've seen it happen before. We'll start P11 alongside Carmen Sienna in P12. Tranty Win flying solo in P13. Having a lot of ground to make up to try and carry the torch for Man United VRT. Matthew Kent will line up alongside on the outside of row number 7, and it'll be Hunter Peach alone on row number 8 to round out our field for tonight's race. And what a race I'm expecting it to be. Do we have anyone starting from pit lane? I don't think so. I think MPM really want to start on the right foot. They often take that strategy, but with it being such a long race, I don't think it's worth risking. They're going to try and control this race from the very start and get their team lined up as actually Nick Wheeler might be the one to opt for a pit lane start potentially.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a quick look through the field and see exactly which 3, if the team has 3 drivers lined up together. Nick Pressey in front of Mo Perry alongside Doug Souter. Those 2 are going to need to swap sides if and when they can. And Zach McBride just on the row behind them. Then Bryce Saucier is on that row as well, starting right behind Doug South. So it looks like NPM are going to be one of the first teams to be lined up nice and quickly and start doing some of that draft swap, where of course Alex Miller is in the 2nd row with a bit of a blinky Mo Perry for company, but Lilac here starting very out of position, which is good for her. We know she can handle starting down there and saving fuel, but NPM in a very strong position at the moment as the pace car does pull in. Green flag is in the air. Edson Santos leads us across the start-finish line for the first time. An even start at the front of the field as the speed slowly builds. That slipstream getting more and more powerful. Pressey to the inside, going 3 wide into turn 1. It looks relatively clean for everyone as it seems to have shuffled out a bit at the front of the field. Edson Santos' lead has survived, but Pressey is challenging everyone else looking to make up positions as well. Of course, the start of the race and any restart is the easiest way to make that happen. Pressey, though, takes the inside of turn 2 and will control the field into corner 3. and will be the first car across the line after that first lap. What a start from the 94.
And we talk about total team control. It's currently total team principal control in this one. Pressy already to the point. Just South starting in the same position, and Brysosi dropping back a little bit. They're not grouped up just yet, but they got plenty of time to make that happen in the pit cycle. And right now it is Pressy looking to drag this field along. Edson Santos goes for the move into turn 2. We're going to see a little bit of swap crafting here, maybe. Will John Hayden try and crash the party and get them out of rhythm, or are these two just going to be able to control this field early on? Pressy goes very low, just a lane up from where Santos is, but managed to keep it out the wall, gets an okay run out the corner.
Who's that spun to the inside? Was that Zach McBride? I think that was Zach McBride going for a half spin there. Manages to keep it out of the wall on the inside of the corner, but has lost a lot of momentum down the start-finish straight. So from 4th in the field, will drop down to the back in a matter of moments. Yeah, just touching that wall on the outside, loses control. Big sideways moment. Just managed to get it gathered up, but good bit of driving from McBride to not bring out our first caution of the race on lap 2.
No floor damage I see on that car, but maybe a little bit on the rear wheel arch. It's hard to say. We'll see how that machine runs as we carry on, but yeah, great save from Zach to avoid that being a much bigger incident than it could have been. As we are kind of in formation here. Pressy and Hayden sitting behind, fanning out 3 lanes wide through the replay cam. Apologies for that one. But they're sort of fanning out, holding formation, and it seems like for now it's not going to be the swap draft, and Edson's going to maybe hunt out to try a little bit. Doesn't have a teammate to sort of share the duties with in that sort of swapping position. Pressy's very happy to just sit in second, and the question is Santos in one of those fuel save maps? Is he holding the field up? As that is Pressy getting really caught up in the dirt. Yeah, just about keeping it out the wall. Hayden will not go for the move, and they're going to stay single file for now.
Yeah, difficult decisions to make at the front of the field. It looks like Santos and Pressy were going to be friendly with each other for the majority of this first stint, but Pressy, thinking better of it, decides, no, I'm just going to sit in that draft and save loads of fuel. But interestingly, Santos finding himself in a very similar position to what I did when I won my first oval race here. Got hung out a little bit to dry at the front of the field, decided to do a fuel saving map. Got everyone bunched up a lot behind me, which funnily enough resulted in one of my teammates getting very angry at me and ending up in the crash that was caused by the field being so close together. No regrets, of course.
Yes, as with that, I will mention the liveries for the other 2 TMR cars. Lilac running sort of traditional TMR blue on that car rather than her usual sort of pinky colour. It's lilac colour.
It's a lilac, yeah.
Her home race as well as Alex's. Showing a bit of an homage there. And Mo Perry, if you can catch it through the blinking, is running the very same scheme of sort of TMR spec from a couple of years ago that was used in that race by you.
4 years ago, actually.
4 years
Which
ago.
Which is insane to think about.
Yeah, but either way, Alex Miller in the is really. I'm trying to think of a train analogy, but it's not coming to me. Is the one leading the field, or leading the TMR trio here, sat in P4. Look for a move around John Hayden, but again, I think these drivers know the length of the race, know that it's maybe marginal on fuel mileage. We're thinking 4 stops at full push, 3 stops with the fuel save, and I think we're seeing a lot of people be clued into that and taking it very sensible right now. Long gone are the days where it's just the 89 with fuel save on the mind. A lot of the field really has picked up on how important it can be to make a race win happen, and it looks like for the time being everyone is flying in formation to make that happen, and Santos is the one on the outside looking in, running 42.8, about second down from qualifying pace, but I've got to imagine that's still not particularly friendly on the fuel end of the 20.
I think it was really interesting though, because Lilac has been running these fuel saving strategies for seasons and seasons and seasons. But of course, at the front of the field last season, we had the likes of Hamilton Akabuzi, who never really went for that fuel saving strategy, but still managed to pull off the win. So when people looked at Lilac's fuel saving, it was never really considered a race winning strategy. But of course, after Akabuzi and co left at the start of the season, of course left a bit of a power vacuum at the head of the field of see Bryce Saucier and Lionel Zaire going side by side into turn 2. An important position being fought for by Saucier there to get in front of the championship leader and start to think about outscoring TMR at the top of the standings. Because a power vacuum was sort of created at the front of the field, and someone had to step into it. And it was Lilac Zaire and Alex Miller.
That's a car spinning into pit lane. It's Zach McBride getting caught out once again on the exit of turn 3. Not getting so fortunate this time as we queue up a replay. Over the top of Eli Sassett, going for a move around the outside and gets to the wall. Just about avoids taking off the nose of the number 9. But spins into pit lane, out of harm's way. The race will stay green. But that was a high-speed impact, and I'm sure that's day done for the 11. Will be our first retirement from this race.
Yeah, difficult moment for Zach McBride there, but really good to not hit another driver in that collision. Not so much grip on the outside of turn 3. Lots of marbles and not on the ribbon line at all, and just not able to make that move work. But to finish my point, the Lilac Zaire strats were never really looked at as race-winning strategies. Sure, they were good enough to get it from the back of the field, like P4, P5.
Richmond.
No, of course, but they were always few and far between on the success they'd have. They'd get her up to P4, P5, maybe onto the podium from the back of the field in some cases. But with that power vacuum, her pace has been good enough now that these fuel-saving strategies are catapulting her to the front of the field, and she's won fuel-saving races on 2 or 3 separate occasions now, I think. All 3 of her wins have been on a fuel save strategy that everyone's finally cottoned onto.
Not the gateway win, that one's for sure.
Oh yeah, that one was full pace.
I think the main thing is that even if you can't counter stop, it's quite rare that you can find a situation that will let you counter stop like we had at Iowa. Even if you can't do that, we've seen how powerful the overcut can be. Not only does it keep you out of the danger zone through a caution, which interestingly enough, is not going to be a factor here. We should probably talk about this real quick, but you won't lose a lap if you're close to the head of the field and hitting under green. So if you can stay out, as we go into radio mode for a second, if you can stay on that lead lap when their caution does come out, it might actually put you to the front of the field. I'm sure you'll have old tyres and a little less fuel, but that flicking over of the strategy might actually pay off quite heavily. We are still it's no use getting that undercut on lap 22 if it means that you have to pit again on lap 94 and run a 4-stop race. But it's shown, I think, through her pace, the fact that now she can make those sort of more marginal gains really pay off and go from sort of 4th to 2nd maybe, and suddenly you're right in the challenge for the race win.
Yeah, it's very much where you don't see her often fighting hard for position, because she knows that is one way to burn fuel. So she's more than happy to just settle into a bit of a rhythm and kind of crack on with things. But a touch of a development at the front of the field that we missed now that we're back with you in sound and vision. Alex Miller starting to start that charge up towards the front has just forced Pressy out of the slipstream of Edson Santos. He has decided it is go time, but a couple of laps ago, just getting past John Hagan into turn 2. But now looking to challenge right at the front of the field. Of course, we don't think he's going to go for that move on Edson Santos. He's looking to just maintain momentum. But big statement move from Miller to get in front of Nicholas Pressy at a track that I'm sure he himself will say he specializes at.
We had I'm showing a little bit of a contact between Stout and Sasek on our timing screens. Look, it's just netcode assisted, but we've got to keep an eye on those two cars, see if they have picked up any damage from that, whether they will sort of fall through the field. It looks like they're both racing pretty good and going at it once again. Of course, we were talking about Mo Perry's sort of intermittent internet issues. Dutch South has the far more unfixable problem of just being on the other side of the world to the rest of the field, playing from down under, and
I didn't know that.
it makes it difficult in those situations. But it seems like, aside from the 4 incident points that hopefully will not end up mattering in terms of a drive-through penalty, they've both gotten away with that one.
Yeah, Nicholas Pressey now being shuffled down the order a little bit further, just struggling in that dirty air from 3 cars back off the lead. Of course, that's why you want to be up there in second. The only car you've got to worry about in terms of dirty air is the race leader, so you can still save fuel really comfortably. But as you know, Liv, it is so difficult to deal with the dirty air further down the field, especially in these 35C 96F track temperatures. And got a little bit of an interesting conundrum with tools here tonight. ARB's weight jacker still existent, but iRacing fixed setups, you often have to do something a little bit funky on the anti-roll bars and jacker to get it to go quick around the track. Similar sort of situation tonight. I think in practice and testing, we saw front ARBs as low as 1 and rear ARBs as high as 6. But when you were running those sort of aggressive anti-roll bars, sort of over 7 on the weight jacker is when the car was starting to stall out, right?
Yeah, you're sort of limited by what you can make a setup do sometimes. And I think a lot of the work is going to go into making it competitive over the course of a race, and drivers are maybe going to struggle to find those extra little adjustments from corner to corner, or from sort of clean air to dirty air, sort of 1 car back, 3 cars back, 7 cars back. I don't know if they'll be able to do that much to adjust for those circumstances, and I think ultimately they have to use the old-fashioned adjustment of your 2 feet and your 2 hands to make sure that you get through the corner of that incident. I think turn 2 is the one that's surprisingly tricky. We know turn 3 has already taken a couple of bites out of Zach McBride today, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more incidents there. But I think turn 2 in the dirty air is one that can really catch you by surprise, and definitely caught me by surprise a couple times during testing last night. But as we do approach lap number 20, we should expect the fuel winner to last for a bit longer, but we did get a bit of a warning shot from Carmen Sienna pre-race that for some drivers, depending on how aggressive they are being with the tools and with their driving, this could be the sort of point where the tyres become a limiting factor, and they might feel the need to take a bit of an early stop to pick up the pace. What I will say is I think if you are willing to go for an undercut, you are going to jump the field probably, because pace at the front, as Nicholas Pressey has actually leapfrogged and gone to the front now, ahead of Edson Santos. I think Edson was backing up the field massively, sort of on a 44.0 last time by, to try and hit that fuel number, and it was too slow for everyone to finally be willing to sit behind. And that could change the conversation, because with how everyone was backed up, you could jump the field by pitting early and going full push on the outlaps. But of course the question is, does that benefit you 60 laps down the line, where suddenly you're the one who's been burning off everything? As Zach McBride has managed to rejoin the race, is 10 laps down, but looking to pick up some pieces from any DNFs later on in this race. But I would not be surprised if Edson Santos is going to come down pit road in the next maybe 2 laps even. With all of that fuel burn, we know he's been doing some work to try and offset that in the last few laps. But the pace has been picked up. 42.5 last time by from Nicholas Pressey. I think that's the difference between map 1 running and map 5 running in the lead of the pack. We're going to see everyone maybe struggle a bit more as they're now carrying more speed through the corners. Maybe if people have burnt off the tyres, you'll start to see that, and potential calamity if people aren't able to adjust to the new sort of higher corner entry speeds. But for now, everyone seems to be... Matthew Kent has had a slide actually in turn 2, caught the apron. Managed to keep it out of the wall, but that will drop him off the back of the pack. But for now, again, we stay green. No contact, no huge issues there. And we'll just try and limp it to the pit cycle, and I'm sure we'll hope that that will spread the field out enough to put him back into the draft range.
Honestly, Liv, if you do get the chance to go back and watch how Nick Pressey took the lead a few laps ago, it's well worth going back for. Of course, Edson Santos really wanted to do a little bit of fuel saving.
Right,
Stayed on the high side. Yeah, Eli Sasek, though, to the inside of turn 2.
As well.
Ooh, can't
Saved
quite
it.
keep it square. Can't
Miller
keep it...
had to check up to avoid running into the back of the 9. And that'll drop them both a few positions, but great work from them both to save that position. The challenge to Pressey goes unfounded, and he will lead another lap for this race.
Well, you say that. Edson Santos to the inside of turn 1 on Nicholas Pressey. Now that draft spot is starting.
He did lead the lap, to be fair.
Yeah, that draft spot, though, starting to take place once again, or maybe
Here's my prediction. Santos knows he has 1.5 laps left at the line. So, figures, I'll go full push now, get a clean pit entry on this lap. I'm betting this is the lap.
Oh, hang on, I just heard a...
Well,
Yeah, the
never mind.
A big slide in the background. I'm trying to figure out who that was.
That is the 96 of Carbon Sienna. And that is a wrecked race car.
That car is... Ooh, that's left rear tyre off the car there.
As we look, is it clear on the apron, as we've seen a few people have?
It is. It's coming up wide from the apron.
Just missing the hook on the corner. Going into Eli Sasek.
I think Alex Miller's bent as well.
Through tunnel turn.
Yeah, Alex Miller's car's bent as well. The 49's got involved in that one. Is going to have to come down the pit lane to pick up some repairs. That car, that front right tyre, not pointing in the correct direction. So perhaps the commentator's curse finally biting in this particular instance. For the most part, that damage should be... Is it going to be reparable?
It'll be repairable, but it is showing a meatball for the 49. It'll be repairable, but I would question how many laps it will take to fix that up.
Oh,
I will have lucky dodds potentially, but that car will be wounded for the rest of the race. We've got a long way to go. And the one car this probably does bail out is Edson Santos, who I believe was scheduled to come into the pit lane there.
Well, pit lane.
And might instead just take the lead of the race and will be able to lead it on
He's gonna have a longer stop compared to everyone else because he's gonna have a lot less fuel in the tank. So
maybe by a couple of tenths. I think it more depends on how well you hit your marks. But if I'm the number 20 car, I may be intentionally giving an extra second in the pit box, letting Nicholas Pressey maybe trying to win jump me, and saying I'm not letting myself be hung out to dry again. I am gonna make sure that I get to fuel save the next time by. Well, as Nick Wheeler stays out, I'd imagine just couldn't get down to pit road and knocked him down this time by because
Edson Santos getting a warning for driving through empty pit boxes there. Of course, you do have to stay in the fast lane for pretty much as long as possible before you get to your box. But Santos looks like he has won the race off pit road. I can't quite tell yet.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, Nicholas Pressey's going to let him by. So Santos somehow fastest off pit road there. It looks like a relatively even pit stop relative to the rest of the field.
Did take the straightest line. Can't deny that one.
Yeah. Pressey, though, probably not wanting to jump him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We know that you don't want to leave the race.
Yeah. And I'd have to imagine we're going to see Wheeler come down pit road this time by. If it will be allowed. Normally, in sort of open wheel rules, that will be clear to go. But I believe since we're running lucky odds and sort of more stock car style portions, the pit lane might be closed now, and Wheeler might be forced to maybe take a penalty under green for taking service here. I'll have to keep an eye on that, but
I don't think that should be the case. Pit lane should still be open. I think it stays open all the way to the green flag.
I'm not sure. Unless the 4 has just done the most incredible fuel save ever. No, okay. Is going to pull down pit road. And look who's going to come down as well to top off. John Hagan, who came out to pit cycle 3rd, is going to come down to top off, and a few cars behind are as well. They are seeing the sort of
The opportunity.
fuel save strategy come in, and the 4 has picked up a penalty for that pit entry. We'll have to see if that is cleared, but didn't get cleared for Atlanta last time by, I believe, with
Right, yeah, of course, he wasn't a lead lap car. So when he pitted, he wasn't allowed to come down pit road again. So the likes of Matt Ken, Hunter Peach, Bryce Saucier, John Hagan, and Mo Perry all allowed to come back down pit lane. But because he didn't pit, because Nick Wheeler didn't pit on that first time, he is going to end up getting an end of line penalty, but will rejoin on the lead lap. Alex Miller then out of the car. I believe that will be a retirement for the 49, as he will not be able to come back from that disappointing Chicago result.
I mean, only Alex knows the extent of the repairs on that thing. Is possible.
I know he's back in. I lied.
Can
He's
come
back
back
in
out. I might be fighting with number 4 for the lucky dog in this position. But as I said, we are going to come back to green this time by, and the 11 dropping to the back of the field. Do I need to
Voluntary OL.
green here?
Voluntary OL.
Looks like we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to put a trolling hat on for a second. I'm going to let that fly.
So then, green flag in the end. None of the leaders wanting to get away well. That's going to check the field up. Edson Santos looking like he's at about half throttle. Nicholas Pressey joining him there as well. Sasek looking to the outside of Pressey, but Pressey makes the decision to take the lead. John Hagan squeezing through 3 wide on Frankie Wynn and Lilac Zier, but Nicholas Pressey will lead the field out of turn 1. But Santos and Sasek are going to have runs coming down into turn 2. Sasek going to be the car to take that run on the outside. Hagan following through. Pressey, big check up on the inside, has made contact with John Hagan. Nicholas Pressey checking up, has made contact with John Hagan, put Hagan into the wall. Hagan bounces off the wall and into the side of the number 89. Your championship leader is going to be out of this race in a very clumsy incident at the front of the field.
I mean, I don't know what to say. Let's have a look at this replay. It's coming through tunnel turn again, somewhat unlike Indianapolis. And yeah, I mean, Hayden swipes down, assumes that Pressey will be right on that inside lane. Pressey will be half a lane up, maybe not even that, and it's enough for wheel-to-wheel contact that sends the 81 around. And there's just nowhere for the cars behind to go, with it being so close to a restart. Lilac Zier hits the brakes, Matthew Kent can't react in time, goes over the top. All 3 of those cars to be out of the race, and I think Mo Perry gets caught up by Bryce Saucier as well in sort of the blinking. I think Mo came off worse from those 2. But that's another 3 cars out of this race, and might be a bit of a lifeline for Alex Miller, who has now fixed up the damage, as at least the meatball's gone. Will be able to get some laps back, and the fact that the course came out so quickly means that the field gets slowed down a lot quicker, and might be able to avoid going any further laps down.
So a dramatic few laps here at Pocono in Champ Car. Eli Sasek is going to cycle to the front of the field. Pressey will sit down in P2, as we do have a few cars coming down pit lane. Sasek and Pressy choosing to stay out. Santos, Peach, Win, South, Saucier, Wheeler, all looking to come down pit lane and top off completely. But yeah, just trying to make heads or tails of what happened there. It was an interesting incident on the exit of 2 that brought out this caution. I think worth a bit of further analysis a bit further down the line.
Yeah, and I think part of that might have stemmed from a bit of confusion over the legality of the restart. Some drivers getting caught out by the field rolling to the end of the restart zone. At which point Barney waves the green flag, of course, can't wait forever. And I think that threw a few people off, and I think in that uncertainty is where everyone was a bit flat-footed and through turn 2, yeah, just that instant, the contact between Hayden and Pressy, that knocks Hayden out the race, not Zero out the race, not Sienna out the race, not Kent out the race. Pressy most gets away with it with maybe not even any damage, just a sort of wheel-to-wheel contact that spiraled behind.
Well, this is where we need the now infamous Olivia Hayward floor cam to check.
I have it up. I don't see any.
car.
I don't see any issues with that, with the side of that 94 car.
Yeah, so wheel to wheel is typically, I wouldn't call it safe in these cars, but it's certainly something you can get away with as long as the contact isn't too aggressive. So the 94 very much getting off scot-free from that one, which was a little bit lucky to say the least. But this is going to be... Sorry, go on.
Saw most of the field come down pit lane there to top off. Just Sasek and Pressy choosing to stay out. Of course, some drivers being forced to come down pit road. And I realized I carried Sienna in that incident when that was the previous caution. Apologies for that one.
How could you?
Miller is back out on track 3 laps down. I've got to say the wheels still don't look particularly happy on that 49 car.
No.
But it should get to the end of the race, and with all of those retirements now, I think it might be enough to pick up some solid points for Miller. Not just for the team, with they're now likely out of this race for good. Maybe not, actually. Maybe they'll get the car back out as well. But also, Miller will now be fighting there for points in that overall in that drivers' championship.
Yeah, this is really going to affect both of their championship charges. Of course, drop rounds will start coming into effect before the end of the season. So that's when it's going to be really interesting to see where this all shakes out. Alex Miller at the start of the season saying that he'd be taking advantage of the drop rounds on the road courses because those weren't going to be where his most confident results were going to be. But of course, he's going to have to take one likely for tonight. But for now, that is all speculation as we are getting back towards the restart, coming through that short shoot between turns 2 and 3. The number 9 of Eli Sasek will restart at the head of the field. Nicholas Pressy, now in really good championship position, will restart behind. Let's see if it's going to be as big a checkup as it was before. Of course, switching to a single file restart this time. The gears come down, the revs go up, the pace car makes its way down pit lane. The green flag is in the air, stationary, and is waved. Eli Sasek takes off at the front of the field really hard and really aggressive, which is something we haven't seen from the race leaders so far. Nicholas Pressy follows a couple of tenths of a second behind. No speed being built into the first corner for a potential move. It's just the Derzier that's being thrown back at the field behind. Pressy dropping back a little bit further through turn 1. It's not handling that Derzier so well. Edson Santos looking to close that gap in the slipstream of the 94, but not looking for a move into turn 2 this time. Will hang back for another lap, but just looking quickly further down the rest of the field. Not so many moves being made back there at the moment, as Sasek is still going to lead this race relatively comfy, and now will be that car that is punching the hole in the air.
And Nick Wheeler coming out of pit lane after serving the penalty, and gonna rejoin right ahead of the field here. This could be a little bit sketchy. I'm sure the 4 will want to stay on the lead lap and not have to take a lucky dog under the next caution. I'm sure the 49 will be hoping that the 4 doesn't steal a lucky dodge here, but he's given a hell of a run to the number 9 at the front of the field, who is breaking away from the cars behind. And you've got to wonder, again, is Sasset going full push here? As Bryce Socia drops from the race with internet issues. So that's one more contender who we are going to be struggling for numbers here. Really unfortunate for the 07 and for that crew who obviously had one part in that previous caution and now has another one of their drivers taken out of the race in sort of similar fashion to what we saw last week.
On a day where the championship leaders in both teams and drivers are having a nightmare race, this was a golden opportunity for Pressy, Saucier, and the NPM crew to start to close the gap to that championship lead. But now going to be fighting with one hand tied behind their back, as Nicholas Pressy will be one of 2 cars still left in this field. So Edson Santos looking to the outside. Nicholas Pressy making no effort to fight that one into turn 1. And Santos does cycle through into P2, but now these two are going to have to work together if they want to get back on that tail of Eli Sasek, who is nearly a second clear at the front of the field, which is a very, it's a bit of a rarity at a draft track. You don't typically find it where the leader's able to pull away like this, but with a track like Pocono, where that clean air is so important to gain any sort of lap time, it's when we really start to see these sort of things happen, as Press is starting to drop back into the grips of the 6 of Hunter Peach at the moment. So that's Alex Miller coming through the field as well, only a few tenths of a second behind Hunter Peach, and looking to try and get that lap back. It's going to be quite some work to do that, but it's got a very long way to go to try and make that happen, as we are 35 laps into this race and very much settled into a bit of a rhythm now.
If you're wondering what state that 49 car is running right now, maybe the car isn't at 100%, but Alex Miller is driving that thing angry, has set the fastest lap of the race in the draft behind Hunter Peach here, and is cutting through the field, not bothering with the fuel save here, maybe trying to race one of his laps back the old-fashioned way, and maybe pull away with Nick Wheeler to try and get a second one onto the next caution. This is a hell of an effort from the 49, who really wanted a bounce-back performance after last week. Couldn't quite find it early on, but is not giving up on it at all. It looks like Bryce Socia is currently in lucky dog position, though, after rejoining the race 2 laps down. That's something to keep an eye on, but right now, Eli Sasek not really quite close enough to fuel save off the number 4. Again, you've got these cars fighting to hold on to laps, who really don't need anything, because Dutch South had a bit of a slide there, I saw, manages to hold on to it and has Sat McBride to the outside, who's also wounded, trying to just bring that thing home and pick as many laps as possible. Dud hitting the apron, we saw that in tunnel turn again, holds onto it, which is crucial for MPEM's hopes in this race. Again, one hand tied behind their back, but they're still kicking. That third drive of Dutch South really helping them do that right now.
Alex Miller then from 3 laps down in the Pennsylvania Railroad livery is steaming through the field to fight and get that lap back. As you say, the old-fashioned way is only 1.2 seconds off the back of Edson Santos at the moment. And it's Hunter Peach who's coming through a little bit now and takes that bottom step off the podium off Nicholas Pressy. So a really aggressive move around the outside of turn 3 for Peach, as Pressy has dropped to half a second back in all that. Perhaps not expecting the dirty air to be thrown at him in that way, as he starts to come under pressure from Zach McBride as well.
Well, it's worth noting, Pressy was one of the 2 cars that didn't top off under that caution, as contact between Pressy and McBride. That's a bizarre incident on the exit of turn number 1, and McBride thinking that Pressy was leaving a lane and following the draft of the cars ahead, but ends up just knocking the diffuser of the 94 car. It looks all good to me, but a really strange incident between a driver who needed a really strong result and a car that's 9 laps down, or 8 laps down right now in this race.
Yeah, looking to get away with that one, but Frankie Wynn taking advantage of that incident between Pressy and McBride, going to the inside of one to try and make up track position, but having to check up aggressively on exit. So will reseed that 4th place to Pressy as they're side by side through turn 2, with Doug South and Zach McBride trying to make their way through as well. Frankie Wynn still has the advantage on that outside lane. Nick Pressy all the way to the inside of 3. Wynn is going to have the momentum on the outside of that corner, carries it through to the exit, takes P4 off Nicholas Pressy, and is now looking up the road to the back of Hunter Peach, who's only 1.1 seconds up the road. Brilliant bit of driving from Wynn there, right when they needed it as well.
Yeah, and I was interrupted by that incident a couple laps ago. Nicholas Pressy, along with Eli Sassett, didn't come in to top off under that last caution. I'm sure the car's completely fine, no sort of real concerns of damage. If there were, he would have come down pit road for sure. But makes that fuel save number just a little bit tougher, and think maybe is starting to get a little bit anxious about it, is starting to bring it down a little bit as Judge Styles gets caught up by the dirt of Pressy up front. Again, managed to keep out of the wall, sort of very sensible driving as Frankie Wynn now takes the fastest lap off Alex Miller by 0.06 of a second, and the 97 is on a charge up to this podium group to try and draft off the back of Peach, hopefully.
Well, we talked about the prophecy that didn't quite come true in Chicago for Frankie Wynn. So perhaps another opportunity for that one to take shape, as the 97 is looking fast at the moment, finally picking up that slipstream of Hunter Peach, who is on that bottom step of the podium as it stands. So Wynn, the driver looking to make a statement, and it's a good opportunity to make that happen. Mariah United BRT are fighting NPM for position in the team standings, and even with only one driver on the track, Wynn is currently in front of every single remaining NPM driver. Perhaps won't be outscoring that team single-handedly, but is certainly going to limit the damage that's going to be done by today's race.
One driver who is not able to limit the damage, unfortunately, is the 89 of Lilac Zare. Just received confirmation that that car is done for the day, will not be able to bring it back out, and at the halfway point of the season, I think this will be the second effective drop week for Lilac. So, definitely able to take that hit, but it's never something you want to have happen at this phase of the season. You're trying to sort of springboard into the back half on the strong foot. A very sort of heartbreaking race for the 89 crew, and it will let Alex Miller close in just a touch, as it stands with 8 cars on the lead lap and Alex Miller running in P10 right now.
I think the thing that's keeping this championship interesting at the moment is there aren't many cars that are having those consistent, strong podium finishes. So that's going to help Zia and Miller, who are both having a torrid day at the racetrack. It's going to help those two out a little bit, because they aren't really going to come under fire from a lot of the rest of the field, because those two have been your podium sitters on, God, goodness me, in most of the maybe 5 out of 8 races. We've seen one of them on the podium so far this season.
We've seen 5 podiums just for Lilac so far.
Yeah, so
season.
Probably looking more like 6, or it'll be, you know what, it'll be 6, 7 occasions. Wait, no, hang on, all 8 occasions. Zia on the podium in.
Well, we've only had 7 races.
Round 1.
That'd be impressive.
Okay, there you go. 7 occasions then where we've seen a TMR driver on that podium, and it has been either Zia or Miller. So again, 2 of the drivers that are having one of the most consistent seasons, where everyone else is very up and down. Like, you'd look at the top of the championship standings, and it is very much just those 2.
Pressy, I think, came into this race 58 points back, more than a full race away. This would be a huge springboard into that back half of the season for the number 94 crew. But again, we've got to start looking at drop rounds, and while Pressy's only really had one standout bad race at Iowa, with a P15 finish, if they're inside the top 10, but some of them on the fringes, and so will need those strong results to continue down the stretch to try and capitalize on the sort of bad races falling off the back of the record.
But that's it, isn't it? There's still 8 races to go after this one, so there's not only plenty of opportunity for some drivers to sort their proverbial stuff out and get back in the hunt and start having those consistent finishes. There's plenty of time and opportunity for those drivers that have been finishing well to start to fall off on this back half of the season. A 16 race calendar is a very, very long calendar, and it's tough to keep the speed up for that long, that consistently over the course of, goodness me, it's going to be 3 months by the time we get to the end of the calendar.
Big knock to the wall for the number 6 car on the exit of turn 3 that last time by. Just getting a little bit wide on the in the dirt, on the exit of the corner, with both Frankie Wynn and Alex Miller ahead, and the patented camera coming through. I see a chunk out of that floorboard. That is gonna be some pretty tough damage, both in terms of turning and in terms of top end. I found that here it really does hinder you, and the City has to be on the tools now to try and recover that car as much as possible.
I see the front of the field for a second though. Edson Santos has just made a move for the race lead on Eli Sasek. Sasek making contact with the wall on the exit of turn 3 and killing all momentum down that front stretch. Edson Santos jumps on that straight away to the right hand side of the circuit, and they're side by side through turn 1. They were side by side through turn 1, and Santos able to use that outside line, more top end speed. Oh, but that's Miller rounds. Miller bounces into the outside wall, manages to get it gathered up, but that's going to be a little bit of floor damage, and that was close to a big crash for the 49.
More damage on that car. Looks like it's still drivable, which is what matters for that crew right now. They're just trying to turn laps and get as many points as possible out of this race. That signature floor damage has appeared on that car as well. But big drama, fortunately keeping the race green, as we now, as Edson Santos comes across the line, are going to enter the second half of this race. And right on cue, Eli Sasek can't go any further on fuel. Didn't top off. Had the entire run in clean air. Has to pit here. Has got to make it 50 laps on hopefully 2 more stints, which is possible. But he's going to have to save more than he has been in this last stint. Nicholas Pressey, who didn't top off, stays out after falling back in the draft, and is looking to sort of manage this one a little bit more typically. But we've got to see how far that 94 crew can go on fuel here, or whether they'll be forced into pit lane very soon.
Yeah, smart choice from Pressey to drop back into the pack a little bit and start taking advantage of the slipstream being thrown his way. Of course, having to fight with that dirty air a little bit more than he has all races. We get a really good shot of I thought that was the damaged floor, but no, the damage is going to be on the other side.
No, I think it was on that side.
It can't have been on that side. The contact was on the right. Oh, right. Yeah, the camera was on the inside of the circuit.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh. I think I caught a different shot than you did.
Well, I was watching
the
podcast, but Nicholas Pressey making a smart decision to drop into the field and take advantage of the opportunity to do some fuel saving. Currently on lap 26 of his stint, so deep into this run. Either expecting him maybe this time or in the next couple of laps. I know Perry looking to the inside, plenty of clean air for them to take advantage of there. And back into the slipstream of the 94. The 94 don't expect to fight this too hard if the move does come, as Mo Perry blinks out of existence once again and finds their way back into this reality, still behind Nicholas Pressey through turn 1.
I thought we'd left the ghosts behind at Homestead on the timing tower, but I guess not, as Nicholas Pressey makes the call now. Has to pit at the end of this lap. Alex Miller also has to pit and might have fuel worries, so that'll be interesting for the 94 to navigate, as actually Miller does a very sensible thing.
Choice. Yeah.
Goes onto the access lane in turn 3, that's out of the way of Pressey's pit entry. Hunter Peach also goes in, just gets it stopped. Nicholas Pressey a little bit more safe. Nick Wheeler had to come down as well, and will fall 1 lap down because of that. Alex Miller, Zach McBride, all down on pit road. So with 47 to go, they've got to save a 23 and a 24 it seems a lot easier than what we were talking about, but now the question is, for some of these drivers that topped off, how much further can they go? The answer for Frankie Wynn, not any further. It'll be 23 and 23 to make it on one more stop for the 97. And Santos comes in as well, lots of tyre, but gets it down. Gets it down nice and easy. Does south as well, just a little puff of smoke on the left front, but they're taking those things right off. Eli Stathak, who did have to pit that time, swapping a little bit of Bryce Socia, who hasn't come down yet, again, had that disconnection, and so is now 20 laps deep into a stint and 1 lap down. I'm sure Stathak will want to clear, but also is willing to work together if for the time being.
Yeah, Stathak coming out in that little bit of slipstream is going to really help his chances of cycling back out to the front. It's difficult to get any good race pace out of the car when you're on your own in clean air. You need that drafting partner to pull you along, and so you can build each other's speed and go even quicker to help you get back out the front of the field. As Doug South is now down on pit lane as well.
South with a long stop. I'm not too sure what happened for the 88 crew.
But it doesn't look like it is going to be a good cycle for Stathak, who's going to drop down to P6 and about 4.5 seconds off the back of
Stathak also with a slow stop.
Really slow stop.
15 seconds lost. While you look at the front of the field, I'll have a look at what happened in that pit stop cycle.
I can only imagine perhaps a little bit of damage for the 9.
Spun on the way into the box. Getting on the brakes and locking the rear tyres. No damage, but having to do a lot of adjustments to get the car lined up. I think maybe a similar story for the 88 of Dud South. Hunter Peach lost a few seconds, probably just sliding forward a bit more conventionally. Actually locking up again and sliding to the inside of the box. A very treacherous pit road that we're seeing here at Pocono today. Those pit boxes, especially with no grip, and on the way in on worn tyres, people are having a lot of trouble. But it is Edson Santos who has jumped the field pretty incredibly. Frankie Wynn behind, and then Nicholas Pressey is 10 seconds off them after, I'd have to just guess, a slow outlap.
Yeah, something's gone really, really wrong in the pit stop cycle for the likes of Pressey and Perry. Santos somehow, and Frankie Wynn, just able to carry so much race time through that pit stop cycle to clear everyone by 9 seconds. And Santos pretty much on his own at the front of the field, only company being the 49 of Alex Miller, who also made up a lot of time on pit entry, interestingly. So everyone that Miller and co pitted with seeming to lose a lot of time, but Santos just kind of cruising at the front of the field right now with absolutely no pressure from anyone behind. 2 lappers between him and the 97 of Frankie Wynn in P2.
Correction, I think that the 49 lost about a lap through that pit entry cycle. We saw the safe entry, but I think also maybe put another 30 seconds of repairs to try and get that thing straightened out. Can't do much about the floor damage that we mentioned earlier, but I'm sure still a little bit askew on the wheels. They will be working on that. Nicholas Pressey and Mo Perry very bunched up behind the car. The car is Bryce Socia 2 laps down in this pack as well, and it seems like the 07 are going to go to the front of this pack and do a little bit of teamwork for the 94, try and bring that car as far as possible. We might see the good old-fashioned swap draft here between 2 cars 2 laps apart to just try and close down that 10-second gap between them and the top 2.
With the perfect opportunity to do it, they've got plenty of clean air out in front of them to take advantage of. But it's either start the swap draft now or just fuel save on the 94 and make sure that final stop is as short as possible. But we talked about how important it was to find friends out there on track. Pressey and Socia finally finding each other after the halfway point of the races were almost 60% of the way through. Guess how I figured that one out. So now perhaps a golden opportunity for Socia and Pressey to start working together. Socia sacrificing his own race a little bit down in P9 to try and get Pressey on that longer fuel stint and on that shorter stop from the final round.
And let's not forget, there does still need to be a little bit of fuel save for everyone in this field. Eli Sasak in a real danger zone has to do a lot of work, but it's behind the sits of Hunter Peach. If he wants to try and make that happen, there's a bit of smoke from the wall. I think maybe just Netcode from Nicholas Pressey there, or maybe Mo Perry doing the magic trick. But I'm a little bit worried about the 20 and the 97 as they clear the lap traffic of Nick Wheeler and the 49 of Alex Miller in turn. Frankie Wynn maybe is in a better position to fuel save here than the number 20, who had such a good stop that he's once again at the front of the field, which worked out in that first stint only because of a late drop back and then a very well-timed caution, we'd think. But I know that the 20 has the knowledge of those numbers, knows how to make it through. I think has backed up the pace a little bit, which is what's letting the 97 close back up. So that suggests to me that the 20 is on top of the fuel situation, and it could be a straight fight between him and Frankie Wynn if the 97 can use Alex Miller as a bridge and get closed up. But for now, Eli Sasek and Hunter Peach, we mentioned this, and I am concerned as to why Sasek has gone around the outside of the 6 car there. Sasek needs to go 25 laps in each of these last 2 stints, was not very close to that in the last one, and could really do with the car punching a hole in the air, but for the time being is the one punching the hole for Hunter Peach, who doesn't need much help on fuel save as it is.
No, not at all. But at the front of the field, Edson Santos, a smart decision to... He's managing the pace at the front. He doesn't want to back off too much, because then you're going to have Pressey and Perry coming back into this fight, who are having a squabble over that last stop on the podium. And of course, Santos has given himself an Alex Miller between him and Frankie Wynn. But we talk about how he's needing to hit that fuel number now, and we know that's something that he's thinking about. It does mean that he is starting to drop back a lot closer to the 49 than perhaps he would like to. The 49 we know is trying to run aggressive to try and score some, well, try and get back on, well, he's not going to get back onto the lead lap, but to try and score a few more points. But it's just bringing Frankie Wynn a little bit more into this race as we get into the last 35 laps or so. So an opportunity perhaps presenting itself for the 97 and Mirai United VRT. No laps led so far in this race for Frankie Wynn, but perhaps that opportunity to do so coming after the after or before the last round of stops. I don't think it's too far out of his remit for Santos to back off enough to let Wynn by at some point during the stint to try and gain a couple of laps back on the fuel tank, because they are a lot closer than they have been all the way, and still 10 seconds clear of everyone else. So some thinking to do for the driver of the 20, and some decisions to be made about whether or not he thinks it's worth trying to drop some time to Frankie Wynn and try and get Wynn to punch a hole in the air for him.
I think the main question I have is, we know both these cars pit with 40 sits to go. And conventional wisdom says you split that in half, 23-23, and you're good to go, baby. But the full push is more like 22 laps.
Yeah.
And so my question is, do you try and oversave here, extend this stint to a 24th lap, so that after that final round of stops you can be push, and not have to worry about anything as Alex Miller does get out of the way?
It wasn't so much that. He had a bit of a wiggle on corner entry, so Edson Santos' safety cushion has now gone as it becomes a straight fight at the front of the field. In a matter of moments, Frankie Wynn 4/10 off the back of Edson Santos. And with all the learning that Wynn has done in these machines over the last 6 months or so, what can he apply to this fight to try and take that race win? He's got his tools, he's got his fuel saving strategy, and he clearly has the pace today to be second and 9 seconds clear of the last step of the podium. So now the question is, with 34 laps to go, what can Frankie Wynn do? It's going to be interesting to see.
I'm going to try and look into the future here, just knowing how these two have ran this stint. I think Santos is going to pit after 23 laps, split it in half. Frankie, with the help of this fuel save being in the draft of both Santos and Miller, will extend that 24th lap, go for the overcut, and then see what do in that final stop. But what I do want to say real quick, we were talking about it in the warm-up session of not knowing if Edson could contend for the win until we were sort of deep into the race and seeing how the qualifying performance translates. I think with the benefit of hindsight, the 20 would have been a very strong pick.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been really strong.
Controlled this. Yeah. Again, it was a little bit aggressive in the early stages, but ultimately that got him out of trouble when incidents happen behind. And sometimes you need to do a little bit of saving, but sometimes you need to sort of throw that to the wind for a little bit and just make sure you are in the best position on track to keep your wing clean and to be able to set the rest of the race the way you want to. And we've seen that Santos since then has been able to make the fuel save happen. But here is Frankie Wynn 0.2 of a second back. And the question is what they are able to do. And not just that, but Nicholas Pressey has closed the gap by a good few seconds, is now within 8. Again, has Bryce Sosa punching a hole in the air. So great teamwork from these two. I'm sure the 07 has that thing ramped up into map 1, doing everything that he can to make the best of a bad situation for the team. And this is what we were talking about pre-race, having that friends to work with in a situation like this is pivotal, and it's giving Pressey, I mean, it's giving Pressey a lot of breathing room behind, but more importantly, it's giving an opportunity, if these stops maybe go a little bit haywire for the front two, to insert himself directly into that fight, and without having to burn too much extra fuel. I'd assume we'll have to see when 94 comes down to pit lane, but if you've got a car punching a hole in the air the whole way, you've got to think that that's pretty positive for your fuel mileage.
Yeah, interestingly, it's for Pressey and Wynn, they're in very similar positions in terms of what's going on in the track in front of them. They're following a car that's punching a hole in the air for them, that has clean air in front of them. So that car is burning a lot of fuel, but can also keep the speed up mid-corner so that you can kind of afford to drop back a little bit, because they're not going to be in a position where they have a car in front of them that they can slipstream off and pull away on those straights. You can really take your time to get through the turns safely, which is what both of them are doing, and just using the car in front to make sure they keep the pace up and then get that extra fuel mileage. So we're talking about how long we think Frankie Wynn's going to go. I think it's going to be more like 25 laps or so, and just cut a little bit off that refuel, because the fuel burn is very high here.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, if we're talking it being that tight, that probably would save a couple of tenths on the jacks. The question is, would that make up for a couple laps maybe on older tyres, or maybe the clean air does benefit and the tyre war would be the issue. One driver who is going to be in a lot of trouble here is Eli Sasek, who was called down to the pit lane here, and with 28 laps to go, is going to have one more stop left in this race. Needs a caution, probably actually after the rest of the field makes their final stop, because this might put Sasek one lap down with how spread out the field and him being 12 seconds back of the leader. I think there's more than a 30-second pit lane time. And so the number 9 strategy really not paying off here. And actually, Hunter Peach follows very late off turn 3. And I don't understand that one, because Peach was very good on fuel.
18 lap stint for Hunter Peach there, so maybe a little bit of damage that he's trying to get repaired. We'll have to wait and see. Up on the jacks he goes, so we'll keep an eye on that pit lane timer and see what it ends up as. But one thing that I've just noticed in Frankie Wynn's driving that's changed in the last couple of laps or so, he was very much trying to stay out of the dirty air on his way up to the back of Santos. But now that he's there, he is staying in that slipstream as long as possible. We can't quite see it in the shot, but Wynn is following Santos's wheel tracks perfectly through 1 and 3. So maximizing the fuel save as much as possible. Of course, in the dirty air, you're going to be off throttle a lot more than you would be at full push, or even on a slightly offset line. So that's going to save you even more fuel. It's that slipstream as well that you're picking up mid-corner. It's going to help you speed on on corner exit as well, which will help you save more fuel because you'll spend less time on full throttle down the straight. So Win, very aggressive on the fuel save, and it's really the story's gonna write itself in the next few laps or so, because these two have just completed lap 20 of their stint.
Update on Hunter Peach's pit stop. No issues in terms of damage. That car went in and straight back out, so I think just wanted to respond to the car ahead and maybe not see in the forest for the trees in terms of the car you were following was on the bad strategy here. And you were probably set. So it's going to be a straight up fight between those two, but this is inserted right in the MPEM slipstream train of Nicholas Pressey and Bryce Socia. And Pressey actually fallen off, I think maybe hurting a little bit on tyres now, and that will let Hunter Peach through, but also did need to save one additional lap compared to Santos and Win, which has to make one of those 24 stints happen. Get to the end, and so I'm sure we'll not be too upset about that, as Judge South comes down pit lane as well with 25 to go. And going for an aggressive undercut here that could work, but I imagine the fuel save required is going to be more powerful than that.
So speaking of the fuel save, Edson Santos has managed to save for that 23rd lap as he comes across the line to complete lap 23 of the stint. So very much expected him to come down this time by for his final stop of the race. But Frankie Wynn, who's been in his slipstream the entire way, expected to go at least a couple of laps longer, but that is the question mark in the air that is about to be answered for them. You can count the extra laps that Wynn is going to go on one hand. It won't be many, but Edson Santos makes the call
that for sure.
For the pit lane. Down to the inside of 3, will stay tight off the corner. Wynn more than prepared for it, as he's been given plenty of heads up, and it will now be Wynn who's punching a hole in the air at the front of the field. He'll have to take less fuel on board than the number 20 and may cycle out at the front. That is the thing that we're asking now. It's the thing we're going to find out very soon. And oh, this race still has a bit of a sting in its tail.
I don't believe that I just made an accurate prediction of what was going to happen in a race. That feels wrong, as Santos locks up the tyres a bit into the box, but does get it stopped without any adjustments. Gets dropped, and actually it's a pretty quick stop, 7.6 on the Jacks. Nicholas Pressey follows in here and will be able to make the fuel save happen. Frankie Wynn does stay out one lap longer, so nice. I tell you what, you were right and actually out-predicted me a little bit there. Onto a 25th lap, and I hope that Frankie has the fuel to full push this and hasn't just missed pit lane, because it's not impossible. But it'll be all eyes on the 97 to see what sort of entry you can get, because that is now the crucial thing. Can you get in and out cleanly, and where does it put you in relation to Edson Santos, who's on the fresh tyres, yes, but on the cool tyres as well. So I've got to warm up a little bit.
Well, I will say, Liv, in terms of our predictions, you know these cars. I know fuel save. I'm still very sad that my baby has had the fuel burn nerf this season, though.
Oh yeah, that's something we'll talk about in the next PC broadcast of the attempts to bop for that GTP class. But never mind that right now. Frankie Wynn
to the racing
with a very clean pit entry, but maybe not the most aggressive pit entry. We're following Edson Santos here, coming through the short chute and into turn number 3. Wynn is up on the Jacks cleanly.
Genuinely up on the edge.
It'll be a 9.1 stop.
2-second time loss automatically on pit lane entry. That's going to put Santos well into the lead as he does come storming by. Wynn is going to be well back. Yeah, not a good stop from the 97 crew at all, but they are going to be flat out to the end of the race, and Santos still has a little bit of fuel saving to do, so an opportunity still yet to present itself in the 97 as Miller's going to squeeze through on the outside on those slightly more warmed up tyres. I don't know how hard Miller will fight this one, but Frankie is keeping his nose in it, and Miller chooses to back out because now Frankie Wynn
needs to push now.
Yeah, Frankie Wynn
can't afford to be in traffic, needs to clean air.
Frankie Wynn has got a 5-second gap to close down in the space of 20 laps as Edson comes across the line with is that 20? Yeah, there you go. Ticks over. 20 laps to go. It's about... Is that like half a second per lap? No, that's way too much.
Two
What am I talking about?
tenths,
Two
two, three
tenths, yeah.
tenths.
I knew it was one of the twos or the fives that was going to catch me out there. It's doable, surely.
Reports in our YouTube chat that the sort of endurance of this race and the long green flag run we've had here is starting to impact the driver of the 97, getting into some cramps, and it is so tough in a race of this length, just being able to stay at 100% through every single turn. It's so high focus at a track like this, especially. It's something to manage, but if he has that next gear to be able to shake that off and push, it has to be right now. 4.8 seconds the gap with just 19 to go. Needs to hope that the fuel save is gonna bite Santos a little bit, but 23 didn't seem too difficult for the 20 car in clean air.
No, but of course in that we did see Pressy and Saucier, who were draft buddies in the last stint. We did see that gap close up to them, so it is worth quite a lot of time. Like the gap was something like 10 seconds, but now
And
it has
3 tenths closed in that time by.
It's not going to be enough as it stands, but as Edson Santos has to make sure he gets onto that fuel number, that's when the opportunity may come in. However, Frankie Wynn is going to have company from Bryce Saucier relatively quickly, who is, of course, teammates with the 94 of Nicholas Pressy. So could we see a little bit of team gamesmanship here? Not quite blocking. Blocking won't be the word, but Saucier could start putting that pressure on Wynn, start fighting Wynn mid-corner to start to slow the 97 down a little bit and bring them back into the clutches of the 94. The 94 who is slowly starting to close that gap.
I tell you what, the 07 set the fastest lap of the race last time by, so if they can execute this properly, this could be a bit of a good ally to have to maybe swap draft the way up to the front of the field. But I'm sure the 97 is not interested, is thinking, my pace is good enough, I can make this happen on my own. I want the clean air, I want to keep the tyres underneath me. Because ultimately that is going to be crucial. It's 3 tenths a lap from the 97. That is, we're talking getting onto the back of Edson Santos with maybe 3 or 4 laps to go.
Less than that. It's going to be
and the
really
question is, how can you make that move happen? Santos has cranked up the pace a little bit from a 42.2 to a 42.1. This is the game that the 20 can play. Has to just turn the dial and look back at the fuel meter to see if it's good. Frankie full push the whole way. For the number 20, there's a little bit of conserving to do, but you want to try and do it as efficiently as possible while making sure that you don't let the 97 get within your draft range, because at that point it becomes probably a lot easier to close back in. Last lap for Santos, 42.0. I think that 20 car might be pretty confident on the number here on out. No, not much gain from 97, just 1/10 here, and I think the 20's pit stop might be enough here to fend them off. But again, we don't know the calculation in that cockpit is possible. The 20 is overburning right now to try and keep the 97 at arm's reach. You're going to have to pay that back in the final few laps.
Yeah, you were talking about how Bryce Saucier could be a friend for Frankie Wynn as Saucier pulls to the inside. And if I'm Wynn, I don't think I fancy having the teammate of the car behind me on track in front of me on the road, but Wynn is going to take advantage of the slipstream on the exit of turn 3, as these two are going to go blow for blow in the final corner into turn 1. A little bit of time gain into 1 for Wynn there, but not enough to get that gap closed down. 42.0 for both cars last time by, as I think that 07 car is starting to become a little bit of a distraction potentially.
Potentially. I wouldn't be too worried about the car behind. The gap is 8 seconds. I think both of these drivers know that that battle has been settled and that the 97's full focus is ahead. The question is, I mean, what does the 07 want to do? They don't really have a horse in this race at the front of the field. Tried a little bit of a swap draft on that last lap, and it gave Frankie Wynn a pretty decent lap time. but now can't get back onto the diffuser of that car to make it happen again. And with 13 laps to go, I just think that 97 is going to run out of time.
Yeah, Saucier we know is a little bit short on fuel at the moment, so I don't think he's going to want to try and do the swap draft because that means he's going to be burning more fuel than he wants to. So fully
They've hit the
expect...
same lap as Frankie. It's just that
Oh, yeah.
same lap for the leaders. He's a little bit short, but it also has 2 fewer laps to complete in this race, and so should be good to the end. We're expecting Sassuch from down pit lane, Peach from down pit lane, and potentially Judge South from 5th position right now, depending on how good the fuel save is in that number 88 car. But I'm pretty confident the rest of the field is going to be good to go. The only problem is I think that includes Edson Santos, and the gap is 3.6, but that's still a good couple seconds out of draft. And here comes so to try and set up a run, he's probably going to take the outside line here through turn 3. But I think the Dirty Edge is playing a bit too much of a factor, cannot make much of it happen, and it'll be Frankie Wynn still flying solo, as he has been this whole race, to try and close down this gap.
Funnily enough, we've talked about how important it is to find friends at this track, to have drafting partners so that you can work together to save fuel, build pace, and do what you need to do. The 2 cars at the front of the field are flying, as you said, flying solo tonight. They don't have any teammates in this race, and they're both leading the race. How can we keep hyping things up like this and all the factors of the race and keep getting it so wrong so many times?
It didn't help that a lot of teammates got caught up in a big wreck off turn 2. Or internet issues, I guess, in the case of Bryce Saucier. The field's just very much... It's a similar thing to what we have seen before, where, especially Iowa, where the field sort of thins out, and then you get a bit on green flag run, and the pit cycles really dictate how the race goes from there. I think we had a similar thing here, and these bid teams just haven't had the firepower left to go after Edson Santos and Frankie Wynn, who ultimately have made it happen on pit road, have been mistake 3, have made their fuel save work to stay at full push as long as possible. The gap down to 3.3 with 9 laps to go.
See the question, more than 3/10 a lap.
But I think the question becomes, how far back do you start to catch a little bit of that slipstream? And will that then be able to pull the 97 into the battle? And of course, how is the fuel gauge looking on the number 20? Is Edson Santos relying on being able to limp it over the line with nothing left in the tank? Or is that car good for the checkered flag and maybe a couple donuts as well?
I want to say it's about 1.7 seconds back you start to feel the effects of the slipstream, right? Maybe as far as 2 seconds. So
2 push, I think.
It's not much back there, but it's something. I know that much. So within 3 seconds now is Frankie Wynn. So at the rate that he's catching, it's still going to be... I mean, doing the maths, it's 10 laps before he gets within 2 seconds. So Edson Santos is doing more than enough at the moment to bring it across the line in first place, but we still don't know how much more fuel saving he's got left to do. He's of course lost a couple of seconds to win during the the duration of the stint, so that could have scrubbed out the question mark over his fuel number, and he could have some margin in hand. I think what Wynn needed was the 0.7 to start with that swap draft, to start to bring him forward and build that pace a little bit more, but Saucier just not able to do that at the moment as the gap drops to 2.9 seconds at the front of the field. Wynn will be seeing that number come down, urging it to collapse faster, but it's just not happening at the moment. The pace isn't there in the 97, and the fuel saving, just the aggression isn't there from Edson Santos, and he's playing this to absolute perfection, and it looks like it's his race to lose at this point.
I think more than having that swap draft from the 0.7, what Frankie really did was a faster stop up on the jacks, and I'm not sure why the stop was a second half longer. Maybe put the tank to the brim when it wasn't really necessary. Maybe missed the marks ever slightly. Maybe his pitcher just let him down in the most critical of moments. There's a little bit of variance in there, and you never know, but it looked like with the gap now 2.8, that second and a half could have been the exact margin that 97 needed, as Eli Sassett and Hunter Peach on their strategy have to come down for a splash and dash. That'll promote Nicholas Pressey back onto the podium. Mo Perry and Dud South to 4th and 5th. If the 88 can save here, but does have the 28 ahead to try and make that happen. Edson Santos, within the final 5 laps of this race, and is still giving up time, but not at a very fast rate, has settled into those 42.1s that feel very comfortable for the number 20, and this could be maybe a redemption story for the ages here for Edson Santos, who had such good qualification, has had such good pace so many times, but has always struggled to convert it when it matters most. But with 10 miles left in this event, a gap of 2.5 seconds, pretty comfortable at the front of the field. The only question is, can he make it on fuel, and does he keep the car in one piece through these final 11 corners?
I mean, I think so. It's hard to doubt the 20 of Edson Santos, as it stands, has been dominant for the entire race, forced onto a difficult fuel strategy from end to end, has been the car punching the hole in the air for the entire run so far, forced up there by Pressey, forced up there by Frankie Wynn, and been given hardly any respite, no opportunity to save fuel at any point in this race, caught the cautions exactly when he needed to, made sure he was topped off on fuel as much as he needed to be, has done a fantastic job of fuel saving in these final 2 stints of the race to make both stints go 23 laps as he comes around turn 2, down towards turn 3 to bring it across the line with only 2 more tours of Pocono to go. Frankie Wynn is going to be 2.3 seconds back with a 13.5 second buffer to the 94 of Nicholas Pressey, who is on the podium for the 2nd time in a row. Santos down to the inside. Absolutely no opportunity of draft being given to Frankie Wynn on the entrance to turn 1. And Liv, I think this race is decided.
Yeah, if we can go on board with Frankie real quick here. Tantalizingly close for the 97 car to a first career win in Champ Car. That number 20 getting bigger and bigger in that aero screen, but ultimately it's just going to be a few laps too short as we round turn number 3. There's no turn 4 to save Frankie Wynn. Edson Santos will take the white flag in hand. 2.5 miles to go here in Pennsylvania, and it looks like Edson Santos might finally be able to right those wrongs and bring home his first career Champ Car victory.
A driver that we wrote off at the start of this race was a question mark as to whether or not he could finally execute a good race from pole position. A driver that we've seen at the front of the field so many times this season, comes through turn 2 for the final time, keeps it out of the wall on exit there, tips it in to turn 3. Only this final corner to go as he comes out to the wall. Edson Santos with the fuel save will be your race winner in Pocono. Edson Santos, take a bow.
Fantastic drive for a first career win. Frankie Wynn will line up 2nd place, less than 2 seconds off. Nicholas Pressey rolls it to the line to round out the podium. And it looks like Mo Perry and Dud South will be battling it out for the final for P4, but are both limping this one home. Mo Perry across the line, that'll be P4, and Dud South will bring home a top 5 for MPM. Crucial points in the team's championship there. Mo Perry definitely stemming the bleeding for Taylor Mills Racing, but a big day for MPM, and an even bigger day for Edson Santos. Started on pole, led most of this race, we have to assume at least, I'd say, 70
69
of those 100 laps,
69
69 laps.
Yeah.
I was close.
I
A very nice result for Edson Santos, and congratulations.
do want to say that is P4 number 4 for Mo Perry in a row. In a
Oh,
row. Talk about consistent finishes,
that's probably the worst place to finish, though, right?
isn't it?
I think P2 hurts. P3, you're happy to be on the podium. P4 is. Come on, Mo, get up here for an interview one of these weeks. We really want to see it.
It'll happen.
But
It's
for
coming.
now, Edson Santos cannot overstate how strong of a race that was from the number 20 car. Had it under control from the very start, played the strategy as well it needed to be, and fended off a late charge from the 97 of Frankie Wynn, who comes all the way from 13th but will fall one spot short and come in second behind the Brazilian. Nicholas Pressey rounds out your podium with Mo Perry, as mentioned, in P4, and Dud South P5, a double top 5 for MPM, and I believe a season best for the number 88 car. Eli Sasser comes home P6 after that extra splash and dash. Nick Wheeler, with that mistake, pitting under caution, is going to fall to P7 with Hunter Peach behind as well. And then we fall to the cars that had some pretty severe mishaps in this race. Bryce Socia, with an unfortunate disconnect, taking him out of contention, but still being a great asset for MPEM, will bring home P9 as well for his championship effort. Alex Miller comes home in 10th. And then behind are Zach McBride, but very early instant onto pit road, and then our 4 retirements of Matthew Kent, John Hagan, Lilac Zir, and Carmen Sienna rounding out your field for today's event.
Definitely an interesting race out there today at Pocono. It's something that we knew it would be the case. Pocono is a track that always throws up some excitement, plenty of opportunities to overtake at this circuit, but plenty of opportunities to get it wrong as well. It is another one of those circuits that really bites when you get it wrong. Those safer barriers can be very harsh and very unforgiving, and a few drivers falling foul of that today. But Edson Santos, a driver who's struggled to really execute those race results, was the man on the top of the podium today, and I think it's very deserved. He was put into that really difficult position by the rest of the field. He didn't have any teammates to really work with that were sort of like willing to take a bit of a hit on their fuel strategy to put him into a more comfortable position. He was very much thrown out there to be the hole puncher for everyone else today, and no one gave him any quarter. But a couple of really well-timed cautions and safety cars just allowed him to save exactly the amount of fuel that he needed to make those final 2 stints more than manageable out there in the lead. Of course, he did drop a few seconds to Frankie Wynn in that last stint, but through the pit stop cycle, just through his pace, the outlap, in-lap, everything that he needed to execute perfectly, on that final stop, he did, and he gave himself that 5-second buffer to give himself that window to save all the fuel that he needed to come home across the line, and we can't discredit him. He is now going to be a contender and at the front of everyone's minds in every single race for the rest of the championship. This is a really strong end to the first half of the season for him.
For sure, and it looked like celebrations have closed down on track. I'd need to check to see if Santos had enough fuel for a few burnouts there. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with our 3rd place finisher, Nicholas Pressey of MPM Motorsports.
Nicholas Pressey, welcome back to the podium. 2 3rd place finishes in a row. What a way to end the first half of the season.
Wait, we're halfway through the season?
We are halfway through the season. That was round 8 of 16.
Oh dear. Yeah, it was a fine end to the half season. Wow, we're really that far. It's the start was fine. Decided to do something a little funny there going into one. Right? It's Pocono. We're all gonna be safe, and we all have to meet the fuel number. It's gonna be boring. Might as well have a little fun going into turn one, lap one. And I guess I had my comeuppance for that in the on the restart with Hagen, who I'm truly sorry to in the event in which I have wronged regarding the strategy after that. I don't know what was wrong with my car. It sometimes I don't even know if there was something wrong with my car. The way it was running, nothing stood out. Didn't tell me I had any damage. Maybe I just didn't feel the same after that, but lessons learned regarding the strategy here. Like to thank Doug and Bryce for sticking this one out. It was a really, really rough one for some of us with Bryce losing connection with the race. But we stuck it out, and hopefully we're a little closer to the top of the standings.
Well, you said yourself that now was the time to start, taking that step forward to really challenge at the front of the field. And after a difficult run of races between that first round 1-2 and getting back on the podium last time out, it seems that everything's starting to come together again for you guys. Like, do you think that now is when you can really start mounting that charge? 8 rounds to go, lots of different races, lots of different tracks, but lots of tracks that you guys are surely going to be able to succeed at.
You know, um, the only one I'm actually worried about the schedule, if I had to pick one, probably Motegi. It's just not a strong track for me. So we'll have to put in extra work in preparation for both races because I love the place, but I suck there. Everything else, I feel I can do this. I can do this. They can do this. And with that being said, if we don't do it, at this point, I'm satisfied. I'm hungry, but I'm satisfied.
Well, hopefully with the preparation to be put in for the double header at both circuits there at Motegi, is there any sort of extra special preparation that you do for a track like that? It's another sort of gateway style circuit where it's got 2 different radius corners. So is there some work to be done on figuring out sort of tools and setup going into that race?
Yes. Listen to everything Bryce says. I don't know. He seems to be good there or something. But once we're done with Motegi, if we can get through that in good shape, full steam ahead.
Well, congratulations on another very strong finish today, Nick. Surely had an opportunity to take that win without some unfortunate moments in the middle of the race. If you do have anyone you want to thank, shout out, as per usual, the floor's yours.
Um, I already thank Doug, Bryce. I'd like to thank Mitchell for helping us out in the strategy today. We had a lot of numbers that we need to hit. He was always very helpful. Thank ABN for putting on this show. Fun. Finally glad I have second half season momentum of any kind for once. I'd like to thank Drip Design Collectibles for putting this car in the grid this year. Shout out to Mom if she's watching. I don't know. But thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast.
It's always our pleasure. Nicholas Pressey, then, your 3rd place finisher, 2 on the bounce for the driver of the number 94. We'll see you in Motegi.
Thank you.
Olivia, I do believe you have a 2nd place finisher to interview.
I do believe so. Frankie, just
Hello.
live in the ABN booth. You got a copy?
I hear you loud and clear. Good to be back.
We know that you were going to be flying solo this week, of course. We're not able to see you over at Chicago, but bouncing back, not having the strongest of qualifying runs and really having to charge through the field, but doing a great job taking the race in stride and really putting a focus on strategy, which I know had been one of those things that went by the wayside early in the season, especially at Michigan. What was the turnaround between then and now to make sure that you were on the numbers you needed to be and to put yourself in a position to fight for a win in the final half of the race?
Didn't have a very good qualifying. I once again sort of bottled it during my runs there, but I was starting to race on the back foot there, but I charged through the field pretty quickly. I think it was like by the end of lap 1, I made up 5 positions already, and I was up near the top 5 in 5 laps, and I was trying to feel save there in the first part of the race there. We were single file. We weren't really going at it. Everyone was just line astern, trying to save as much fuel as they can. That is until the first caution came out through wrenching things. And then there was, of course, a little bit of the confusion about whether cars were able to pit on the second opportunity after other cars have already pitted. And then second, the first restart after that, I very nearly, by the barest of margins, missed a big wreck that happened in front of me. I believe it was John Hagan that had contact and was spinning right in front of me, and in turn, I believe it was turn 2. I lifted just the amount that I needed to be able to turn in and avoid that wreck. But after that, it was just managing the fuel numbers. I calculated. I did a bit of testing before the race, and I already knew that in clean air, map 1, it was going to be at least 20 laps for the fuel stint. So I knew what lap numbers to hit for the final half of the race. I had chat help me keep an eye as well, and of course, I did have a very handy fuel calculator overlay as well. So it was just about staying in the draft as much as I could. In that stint before the final pit stop, I did have to close a little bit back up to Edson, but he did pit 2 laps earlier than I did, and I hit my number pretty much exactly, but unfortunately, I got in my own way again during my pit stop. I had a good pit entry. I stopped in my pit box, right? But I didn't put it in first gear. I left it in third gear when I made my pit stop. So I had forgotten that I was still in third gear, and I left the pit box extremely slowly, and it cost me probably the 2 seconds that I needed to catch Edson. So right from that pit stop, I was in map 1 full throttle. I was pushing it to the limit. I was trying to take qualifying lines every single lap. And I was closing, but I just needed 2 more laps, or it props to Edson. He managed the gap perfectly. I wasn't able to close more than 0.3 a lap the entire final stint there, but I got to within 2 seconds at the line, and it's not a win, but I'm very happy with my result, P2. Glad to have gotten the P2 for Mirai. It's a shame that Ruby and Liv couldn't make it. We would have been able to really close up in the team championships had they run, but I'm happy with P2. I would have loved to have gotten my maiden win here, but P2 is good for a good haul of points, and definitely hope it catches me up to the pointy end of the driver standings.
Yeah, it seems like Stein is updated. 65 points off Lilac Zero at the top of the table right now. I mentioned 5 top 5s and 7 top 10s. That is joint first with any driver in the field this season. So a very consistent race there. But of course, always lessons to be learned to try and make that next step onto top of the podium. With a breakweed next time out, and then I'm sure a double header you're very excited about as we head over to Japan to run the twin rings of Mobility Resort Motegi. How are you looking forward to that one, and which of the two layouts do you think is going to suit you the most?
This is a tough question to answer because, believe it or not, I have not run either the road course or the oval in this car at all. I believe I ran the Twin Ring Motegi Oval only once before in the Indy Pro 2000, which, of course, is a much slower, much easier to drive car on that big of an oval for that car. I think I like my chances better at the road course. I am primarily a road course driver in open wheels. I've only just recently picked up road course racing in the Delara RR18, but I've gotten up to speed with it pretty quickly compared to oval racing. I think I adapt faster to road courses than to ovals in this car, so I think I fancy my chances at Motegi better than the oval, especially since it's quite a unique oval. Motegi is it's asymmetrical, asymmetrical bilaterally. If you know what I mean, it's like it's egg shaped. It's not a typical D-shaped oval or anything like that. So I'm probably going to need a bit more time getting accustomed to the Motegi Oval, but we'll see how it goes. I do think it's a good opportunity to again gain some ground in both the team and the driver standings. So we'll take it. We'll take it as it goes.
And of course, I know you're getting pretty accustomed to being in this room, but as usual, anyone who want to shout out, say thank you to, the floor is yours. Congratulations on another P2 finish and your third podium of the season in the Champ Car World Series.
Of course. First of all, I would like to thank all you at ABN Esports for putting this on, and of course putting the broadcast on. You all do great work. It is a great league to be a part of, and broadcasts are always fun to watch back on. Also want to thank everyone in my chat who's watching my Twitch stream, at everyone also on Mirai United VRT, all my teammates. Even though both Liv and Ruby aren't here racing today, I do know that they are giving me moral support in the team Discord. So thanks to them, my teammates. Of course, got to shout out the team principal, Akito Asagawa. He made the paint schemes for all our cars, and it is a looker. Greatly appreciate his work. And finally, want to thank my primary sponsor, JapanCandyBox.com. If you like Japanese foodstuffs, that's the place to be to go find what you're looking for. And that's about does it.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure catch up with time over in Japan.
Alrighty, thank you.
And as one driver leaves the room, still hunting that first career win in the Champ Car World Series, David Kreutz will be joined by our first-time race winner here, Edson Santos, here at Pocono.
This victory was a long time coming, and we knew you had the speed ever since we first saw you last season, Edson, but it's about time you take the checkered flag and you get to keep it. 69 laps led on the day and an overall dominant performance. Pull to victory. I think everything just about went your way tonight, Edson. How does it feel at long last to be a Champ Car World Series winner?
Well, guys, so good night, all of you. And what a race. Amazing race. I'm feeling pretty good because I just love this track, and I was thinking maybe will be today my first victory in this league. Well, I definitely don't like economy race very much today with 100 laps, possibility of doing 24, 25 laps per tank. So no one wanted to lead in the beginning. I put map 5, so running a hard map at the beginning, and it came the first yellow in the lap 24 or 25. I was lucky because when the yellow flag came out, I had one leader to make one lap behind the pace car during the yellow. And I stopped it in the next yellow because there was a yellow, right? 1 or 2 laps after. And I didn't change the tires, but I put 3 or 4 liters more of fuel. In the following stints, I saved a little bit more, enough to be able to go to the end, but using map 3, map 4. So I was observing, I was gaining space in the pit stops, but Frankie in the last pit after this came decreasing, reducing the difference a lot, around 2 tenths per lap. I was pretty nervous in this last stint. Probably he was using map 1 because he managed to stop 2 laps after me in the last pit, and I was controlling the map fuel, controlling the difference until was able around 2 seconds ahead and 2 or 3 laps to go. So I was calm because I was able to put map 1 and to finish the race with no risk to lose this victory.
And I think when it comes down to your strategy tonight, you mentioned that very first caution, you were leading the way by the time the yellow flag came out there. And if that yellow were not to come out, do you think you'd have a strong enough strategy to return up there, or did everything fall in perfectly for you to win?
Oh, actually, with no yellows, I would need to make another strategy because I was the first one to stop, and so I was unable to make good stints. In the following stints, I probably will reduce my speed in the exit, the pit lane exit, in order to stay in second, 30, or some position to make me able to save fuel. But this 2 yellows was good for me because I put exactly what I was thinking, and with a little bit more saving, I could finish the race, and so I'm pretty glad to get this first win in this league.
Just like that, you find yourself a race winner here. You've had the speed, and it looks like tonight everything came together. You mentioned you were confident about this track, but maybe we're going somewhere you have not been before with these Champ Car machines. Up next, we're going international. And of course, first we'll have the Motegi Oval configuration, but we're going to Japan for our next 2 races, the first of which is 121 laps on another oval circuit. However, it's one of the more unique ones on the schedule that we don't often see with this Champ Car style racing. So gain this victory now. The momentum is in your pocket, and I think everyone knows you've had the speed, and now you have the result to back it up. How are you feeling about next week heading over to the Motegi 300?
Well, I love Motegi as well, and I hope the race don't be the saving race. So I love Motegi, and I hope to get another victory. If you let me, I just like to thank the league very, very well organized. So they're organized, and so I hope to be here and the podium and the interview another times. And send a warm hug for all my teammates in Brazil on my team, Linear Energy Racing. Some of them were watching the race. And thank you guys. We see you in the next week for sure.
There we have it. Edson Santos, race winner here from the Pocono Raceway, collecting the checkered flag for the first time this season. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you guys. See you.
And now that we've gotten the word from our top 3 finishers, once again, Nicholas Pressey starts third, finishes in third. Frankie Wynn, the biggest mover, up 11 spots on the day, 13th up to second. And Edson Santos gets the job done for a first career win, I would say long overdue. But it's about time we've seen it happen at the halfway point of our championship here, and still half the season left to go. If you've been entertained, excited, enthralled by what you've seen so far this season, we're just getting started. And now we're getting closer to that crunch time period in the championship where drivers and teams alike are going to level up their game that much further. But before we get to that point specifically, it's a Japan doubleheader, 2 weeks, shall we say. And first, of course, is the Motegi Oval configuration before we go road racing once again. It's due to be a very exciting stretch to finish off the month of September, and how about we leave with our final thoughts, of course, before moving on to our international trip for the month?
I think pit strategy and pit stop execution are very much the deciding factor in this race. I do just want to give a bit of commiseration to Frankie and say that like those mistakes are so easy to make. I had a race at Watkins Glen a couple weeks ago where I was sat in the first pit stall, so I qualified on pole, and I leave my pit box after my pit stop and just forget to turn the limiter off. And a car drives clean around my outside on the pit exit and just gets a spot, and I'm like, not ideal. So it's very difficult to keep those things at 100 every single time. Obviously, congratulations to Edson for being very clean and very consistent and very experienced with pulling that off. But I know for sure that we are going to see another first-time winner in this championship very soon, and it's going to be the 92 there. 97, sorry, I can't read.
No, it was definitely an interesting race with some the typical thrills and spills that Pocono throws up. Everything falling right into place for Edson Santos, but that's not to say that he was lucky in this race, because that's not the case at all. You have to put your car in a position where you can actually take advantage of that luck, and that's exactly what Santos did today. Led from pole, led 69 out of 100 laps, took advantage of the cautions that fell his way, and then did just enough to stay in front of Frankie at the end of that race. So yeah, there's an element of luck to it, but you have to be able to take advantage of that luck, and Santos was able to do that perfectly. But interestingly, all 3 of us missed on our picks today, which is a rarity. So I just wanted to highlight that one. We need to do better for Motegi. But just to touch on Motegi, I think it's really cool that we've got this sort of track that we're going to where we can do a double header on 2 very different sorts of racetrack. Of course, bringing 2 aero packages over to Japan, taking the speedway package over for the oval, and then the big wing full road course package for Motegi. One of 4 road courses on the calendar this year. So a lot of work for everyone to do to get used to both of those types of tracks on a back-to-back, week-to-week basis. Of course, lots of testing to be done by every single team to try and make sure they're putting themselves in the best position they can be. But of course, with the break week between now and the oval, plenty of time to start getting those laps in and start getting your eye in so that you're comfortable by the time race day comes around. But that asymmetrical oval, it's always tricky to tackle. We had it at Gateway. You've got to set the car up for 2 different types of corners at every single lap. So that could include playing with ARB, playing with weight jacket, and you're doing it almost constantly. Throw into that the fuel strategy, the lack of grip on that really old track surface, I think we're going to get a really, really good race, 'cause that's the sort of track that really throws up some good fights. So I'm looking forward to Motegi. I'm looking forward to the doubleheader, but I'm very grateful for the week off at this midpoint of the season.
So with that being said, we'll come back with 2 weeks, of course, spread out between a race to race. It'll be next, of course, our international tour to the Twin Ring Motegi, and we hope that all you tuning in on ABN Studios will join us there once again. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's coverage of the Pocono 400, an exciting race and a first-time winner at that. Congratulations to Edson Santos getting the job done here from Long Pond. I've been behind the scenes producing tonight's action, David Kreutz alongside Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills, your hosts for tonight's coverage. If you enjoyed, check out all ABN social links so you can stay up to date on when we have our next races. We'll be back here, of course, 2 Wednesdays from now, so we hope you get the memo, return again, and we'll be continuing our season with the second half coming next up. Thank you once again for tuning in to tonight's racing from the virtual Pocono Raceway, and we hope you have a fantastic night.